2024 Diriyah E-Prix pre-race press conference with our drivers. We have Jake Hughes from NEOM McLaren, Eric Vergne from Penske, and Nick Cassidy from Jaguar TCR Racing. Welcome back, guys. Good to be back in Diriyah, racing under the lights again. A quick word from each of you on performance in Mexico, and then thoughts ahead of the night races this weekend. Starting with you, Jake.
Yeah, I think Mexico is a good way to start, really. Of course, we all want to get trophies and wins and whatnot, but I think all things considered, P7, points on the board, qualifying and getting into the duels was a good start for us.
Jeff?
Yeah, qualifying was not the best, but the pace we had in the race was really good, much better than last year. So I think we've made some good progress with the car, so now we just have to carry on and prove that it was not only a one race performance that we had, but that all the changes that we've made went in the right direction, and hopefully this weekend can be a good one.
And Nick?
Yeah, it was okay. I wasn't super comfortable, but we got a good result, so it was one of the weekends where you're quite happy considering how it went.
Okay, well, staying with you, Nick. First podium in the bag for the new team Jaguar, and I imagine you want to get that top step sooner rather than later. What's it going to take to make that happen this weekend?
Yeah, for sure. I think I've got some steps to go to get everything together on my side of the garage and get me feeling to the level I was at the end of last year. But I think we've light in the tunnel, so all good.
So just to follow on from that, one race weekend down now. For you, what are the main differences for you as a Jag driver? Because it seems, although there's been challenges, you're enjoying it so far.
Yeah, no, I'm loving it. It's just mega to have a team behind me. I haven't had that probably for 3-4 years, so it's a big difference. I feel really good and quite lucky.
Right. Now looking ahead to this weekend, for you personally, the team, knowing the package you have, what do you think are going to be the biggest obstacles or challenges?
To be honest, I think our car at this track should be quite good. I think these two guys will be really strong as well. Mitch, Sam, Seth were strong last year. Myself, I've historically struggled here a little bit, so not expecting big things, but hopefully we can score a few points and hopefully have a good weekend.
And then just to start with quali, that quali Group A, we were talking about it earlier, quite a competitive one.
I think so. I mean, we also said like Formula E, you always have tough quali groups, right? There's a lot of fast cars, but yeah, for sure Saturday will be a big one.
Jeff, moving on to you. Moving on to you, Jeff. A very solid start to the season. Last season it was often that it was yourself as DS and maybe one of the other teams that really bring the fight to the Jaguar and the Porsche powered cars. Should we expect to see the same this season starting from this weekend?
Well, I don't feel there was much fight last year. Although we could have, we did some good races, some podiums, a win, but we were not quick enough, not good enough to fight for the driver and team championship. So hopefully this year we can give them more of a hard time. As I said before, we improved quite a lot of things on the car, and I hope those improvement will be sufficient to be able to fight with all of those guys in the front and fight for more podiums and wins this year.
So in Mexico, you achieved 1,000 points in your time in Formula E, which is a great achievement. Now, much of that success has come with the same setup or the same team, albeit in different variations. How important is that consistency in the team to you?
It's important for the human performance and the relationships that you have, but on track it actually doesn't change a lot. I think it's quite dangerous when you get too comfortable in the team and too comfortable in the way you walk, and whenever there are changes and that you need to put yourself into question mark and also the team and change the way of walking, you cannot get too comfortable with the team. It's always you always have to push them, but they also always have to push you. So I wouldn't say, I'm in a comfortable situation, work-wise, but I think that's the way also that you should be as a driver if you want to perform.
Now I want to try and dig a bit deeper in the importance of qualifying, because in Mexico it was won from pole position, and that's something that doesn't really happen much, especially in the Gen 3 era. Is it going to be likely harder to lead here, and will this now require that more strategic type of racing that we saw last season?
Well, I think Mexico and Riyadh are probably the only two tracks where, and also London, where overtaking is quite difficult, and those are probably the tracks where qualifying is the most important because of the difficulty to overtake. I mean, technically here there is only one corner, and you're basically able to not lift before that chicane, and therefore defend your position. Because the rest of the track, it's basically impossible to overtake. There is only one line, the track is very narrow. So yeah, qualifying is going to be crucial, and you want to be starting in front if you want to have a chance of winning.
And Jake, moving on to yourself, Diriyah is of course the location of your first pole position in Formula E last season. Do you and the team expect to have similar quali pace this weekend, and maybe even the chance for another McLaren podium?
Not so sure I'd say we expect it. Of course, we're confident that we can be in the fight for pole. I think qualifying historically has been our strength, if you look at our performances in qualifying compared to the race. So obviously we're hoping that translates in some form compared to what we had here last year. But I think we were talking earlier actually that you saw sort of from mid-season onwards last year, it became a lot more competitive in qualifying. So we didn't seem to have that advantage that we had at the start of the season last year. So thinking about coming back here now, yeah, I think we can be in the mix, but whether we expect to have it or not is probably a step too far.
So energy management, it seems like it will be likely a bit more of a factor here at least than it was in Mexico. And that's kind of something that we learned firsthand now based on a season of Gen 3. And you learned firsthand last season by actually running out of usable energy right on that last lap. Now, just kind of comparing that to what Jeff just said about being difficult to overtake, we did have people winning races from P8 and people coming second from P11. So energy management must have played a significant factor then. Will it again this season?
It's a Formula E race, so for sure energy always will play a huge part in the end result. I think if you look back to the races last year, the Gen 3 platform was so new that everyone was definitely figuring out what they had underneath them. Like I alluded to, I think we came out of the blocks quite well in terms of one lap performance, and I think you saw, especially in the early part of last year, that let's say the Porsche power cars came out of the blocks very well in the races, and I think that's probably why you could deduce that they were able to win, Pascal was able to win here from such far back in both races. Whether that's translatable to this year, I think is probably, I would be surprised actually if someone outside the top 10 or mid-grid starting position is winning the race. So as Jeff said, I think the whole paddock kind of expects qualifying to be super important.
And this circuit is more often than not talked about or hailed as a fan favourite and a driver favourite. What is it that makes it so likeable from a driver's perspective?
I think as racing drivers, we all like the sort of risk versus reward element. On a street track, your mind is kind of forced into a certain tunnel vision almost. You can't be thinking about other things. Not saying that on a qualifying lap we're always thinking about what we're having for dinner or something, but your mind can wander. Whereas tracks like this, you're always in the zone. You can't. The track doesn't allow you not to be really. And there's a lot of high speed flowing left and right corners, especially that sequence from sort of turn 4 down to turn 14. It's really nice, and you feel like every single lap you're sort of building up to it. You're braking later, carrying a bit more apex speed, and you get to a certain point where if you're really confident, you almost feel like you can never hit the wall almost until you touch it, like I did in semi-final last year, and you realise actually you're not that invincible, but the track sort of gets you into that mindset really if you're feeling comfortable with the car.
And if it's not trying to get 8 pole laps, it's dodging cats like Dan Tickton had to.
Yeah, Dan has to dodge a few things on track actually, but he had to dodge a barrier in Mexico in qualifying, I think.
And just one final question before I open up to the floor. Nick, let's go for you with this one. Having looked on the track walk today about the attack mode position and where it is on the circuit, it seems like there's an ability to lose quite a lot of time, especially if you don't hit all of the markers as we've seen in the past with other drivers. How crucial is attack mode strategy going to be to winning or losing this race?
I think pretty crucial. I think the bigger attack loss stuff in Formula E is good, encourages a bit of racing. I don't know what everyone's thoughts were on Mexico, but it was quite a calm race, let's say, and anything we can do to spice it up is probably not great if you're on pole with a fast car, but from a fan entertainment point of view, pretty nice. So.
Any questions from the room?